I'm Ross Twaddell from Cultaholic.com, your Cultaholic heavyweight champion. Why have you rang the damn bell? I've done nothing wrong. What do you mean I've endangered somebody's life? This is WTF Moments. Anything goes, for Christ's sake. The last 23 years, it's been the same rules all the way through. You can't change it now, referee.
WTF!
More on that match later. But basically, if you have heart issues, please do not buy a Yamaha or your chest will explode. 2 Cultaholic signs at Hell in a Cell 2019, and right at the start of the kickoff show, you saw a sign from Cesar Vegas. But as for a man called Beefsteak, it's delightful, isn't it? I love it! Now this is kind of a funny one, looking back at the start of the kickoff show in retrospect, because of course Jonathan Coachman says we are getting ready for a night that is going to set the tone for the rest of 2019. But then when he was speaking about the Hell in a Cell structure, the most diabolical structure, apparently, in the history of WWE, he was saying, just ask Mick Foley, he said, there's definitely a roof on the side. But the only way the roof of the cell could be on the side is if the cell itself is on the side. But then you have to ask the question, is that even a cell? Because the bit that touches the floor is then on the side, and there's a massive gaping hole. And next up we have Charlie Caruso saying she ran into a couple of superstars earlier on Sunday day who said they were very worried about their Hell in a Cell matches. But big old Chucky didn't want to say who those superstars were, because if she said who those superstars would look like massive softies. Well, I mean, it's either Sasha or Becky, or the Fiend or Rollins. And it's not the Fiend. It's the Fiend. He lives inside Hell in a Cell, basically. It's not Sasha. She's been inside Hell in a Cell before. She's let us know she's not scared about Hell in a Cell. So breaking news right here on WTF Moments, boys and girls, via Charlie Caruso, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, pair of massive softies. Sam Roberts then claims that no other woman in WWE has made Becky Lynch look like one of those submissive types who bow down to the dominatrixes. Since Becky Lynch grew a massive pair of testicles, became a biological man, but was handed her very own arse by Sasha Banks at Clash of Champions last month. But what about the combo of Charlotte and Lacey Evans, who took the SmackDown Live Women's title from Becky Lynch and her bollocks at Money in the Bank? Or Asuka at the Rumble in January? Or Stephanie McMahon, the woman who created the man and the division the man is in and the ring the man does the wrestling in? How Stephanie embarrasses Becky every single day of her pissing life because she is Stephanie McMahon. I've lost me track of thought, but Sam, you're talking bollocks there. And Coachman, that their explanation I have just given also applies to you when you claim that Becky Lynch hasn't put a foot wrong in the last 6 to 8 months. Although Asuka, that happened 10 months ago. 10 months ago, Jesus Christ, where's the year going, eh? And next up we have Alexa Bliss saying that she doesn't understand what the Kabuki Warriors have done to deserve a shot at her WWE, said that weird, women's tag team titles, even though we all know that the Kabuki Warriors defeated the team of Sonya Deville and Mandy, who of course once upon a time looked like they were in line for a shot at the women's tag team titles before they cut that awful promo on an episode of SmackDown Live, and WWE said, bollocks to your lasses, you cannot talk, so you're not getting your title shot. So basically, Alexa, they've earned it.
Tea time.
So Booker T says that he doesn't want to call Bayley a follower, but then he calls Bayley a follower. Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast then points this out to Booker T, who says, well, if it looks like a duck, and if it quacks like a duck, well, it must be a duck. But we all know from that TNA promo, you know what TNA promo I'm talking about, Booker T has got his birds mixed up. Those people who have seen that promo know it's all about the chicken who comes from his homeland, his country of Houston, Texas. Go and watch that if you haven't seen it, because it's amazing. Direct quote from Jerry the King Lawler now, who said, I heard that when Lacey Evans got deployed to Afghanistan, she got shot at by both sides. Now, I'm sure that your reaction when you were sat at home watching that kickoff show was similar to mine when I was sat in this office watching that same kickoff show. I heard that line from Jerry, and I was like, whoa, Jerry, that's a bit too far, you silly old goose. Maybe it wasn't quite like that in hindsight, but still, Jerry, That was unnecessary, you arsehole. And next up we have Dio Madden, who I'm sure is just a massive piss taker, and he's already quickly becoming my favourite commentator in all of WWE. Next up he claims that he knows that Lacey Evans has a bag for a gear, but she also has a giant bag for a hand sanitizer. But I was left asking the question, with hand sanitizer thingies being literally that big, why do you need to carry a massive bag of them around with you when you can pick those little things up from any corner shop going? Why do you need that massive bag, Lacey? You big old weirdo. And next up we have Jonathan Coachman doing what Jonathan Coachman does best, and that is making a massive tit of himself on a Kickoff show on a WWE pay-per-view night. This time he claimed that Clash of Champions was called Clash of the Champions, even though the last Clash of the Champions took place all the way back in 1997, before Jonathan Coachman had even been born. Of course, he was born in 1999, the night when he first met Vince McMahon, which was the night that SmackDown had their first ever show. And next up we have Booker T saying that there's a time limit for the Hell in a Cell match between The Fiend and Seth Rollins, even though there bloody well isn't. Surely, if there was, then WWE would be pulling an AEW by letting us know, first of all, there is a time limit for this match, and second of all, in past Hell in a Cell matches, we would have been told when the 10-minute mark, towards the end, when that happened, and when the 5 minutes before the end, when that happened too. And Booker T bringing this up, and then realising that AEW does, and the finish of the match between Cody and Darby Allin, it makes you wonder why WWE doesn't do it. It makes things way more exciting, doesn't it? Tonight, enter if you dare, escape if it lets you. So that's why the cell's red these days. It was obvious, wasn't it? It's because that cell there is Taz. It's made from Taz. I don't know Taz was orange before you go to the comments and tell me, oh Ross, but Taz was orange. Red is close to orange in the rainbow, so there. But shame on WWE for, first of all, taking his catchphrase, and second of all, adding themselves to the long list of people in the wrestling industry who have disrespected the good name of Taz. No doubt about it, some of you will show this to Taz, maybe, I don't know, and I'll get myself on that list. Taz, I love you. That poor child. As you can see there, that dad is going radio rental for all of the right reasons. Pyro, woohoo! Loud noises and loud lights and bangs and stuff. But that child there is quite literally living in its own little hell with the loud noises that Pyro brings, unless, of course, that child there knew what was to come at the end of the night. If he did, why didn't he tell us? Well, that's one way to raise awareness for breast cancer, I guess. The referees quite literally had 45 long minutes to chain that door shut, but they didn't, which then resulted in Becky Lynch getting her hands there on that little chain there and making that Hell in a Cell match really unfair. Once again, we have a WTF Moments video, and once again, we're asking the same question. Why are the referees in WWE made to be so stupid? Kurt Hawkins, the only referee in the last 30 years to come out of a match where he's refereed it with any sort of credence to his name. Kurt Hawkins, we need you to officiate every single match on WWE TV ever. Vic Joseph now. Anything is legal, he said, as Becky Lynch got her hands on that chain.
Are you sure about that?
Vic Joseph again, when he said king, as we've said, anything goes inside Hell in a Cell, as Becky got her hands on that table.
Are you sure about that?
But now we have questions that need to be asked. Why would there be a monitor under that ring when the Fiend, presumably, well, he did, we've seen it now, but hadn't at the time, would have been in the backstage area, ready to make his big entrance before that main event, and not living under the ring like he's done on some Raws in recent times. So the questions then, who is under there, and why are they under there? I hope it's not Hornswoggle. Back to Vic Joseph we go, and I'm going to read this out just to make sure I get it, Spotty Dog. He said, and again, King, everything legal. Everything legal, he said, just as Sasha Banks hit the blue Nini right to the head of Becky Lynch.
Are you sure about that?
Back to Vic Joseph we go. That stick across Becky's face, he said, as Becky had that kendo stick wrapped around her throat. Hello there, I'm Nikki Lynch. Maggle, 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 maggle. Hey Corey, did you ever think you'd see the night where Roman Reigns would team with Daniel Bryan? Team, yes dog, wow! Maggle, On WWE televised events, the tag team tandem of Daniel Bryan and the Big Dog have teamed together in 2-on-2 tag team warfare no less than 4 times. Dating back to their 2015 program together, Michael. A quick Google would have told you that, Michael, son. Please turn off CBeebies and do some research. Bear with me a second there, boys and girls, because my brain just cannot compute how Michael Cole could not research the thing I've just told you there, but he could tell us all that the first ever Tornado Tag match took place in 1937 and featured Miles Steinborg, Wister Savage, Tiger Dollar and Fazul Muhammad. There are no words, are there? Even though he would have been sitting there on his computer, on the Google machine. It's Google time! And next up we have Michael saying Roman's being held prisoner by Harper. The irony of the situation kills you sometimes, doesn't it? Poor Harper. And next up we have the moment where Erick Rowan snapped a pencil, and since he's a big old tree himself, is that cannibalism? He didn't eat it, did he? Manslaughter? Murder? I don't know. But this also could have been seen as symbolic because, as we all know, the bookers in wrestling, not the T's, but the people who put the shows together, put their shows together with a pencil so they can easily change the things they've booked before if it needs be. So with that knowledge in mind, Erick Rowan snapping a pencil on Hell in a Cell 2019 night, it's quite fitting, isn't it? It's a disaster area! Michael Cole shouted as loud as he could when Erick Rowan was speared through the announce table by Roman Reigns. We already knew that, Michael. You're sat there. Oh, aye, when Michael Cole reminded us that Randy Orton will be the team captain of Team Flair at Crown Jewel on Halloween when somebody will die. I remembered a thing that Randy Orton said on a gaming stream last week, and therefore it's got to be a WTF moment that Orton hasn't been transferred to Team Hogan. As long as he's the captain of Team Flair, it's got to be a WTF moment. Ali going for the 0-5-4, which is 4-5-0 in reverse, which means it's going the opposite way it was going in the first place, Michael said, just about nearly, I don't know. Now, this might just be me, but I feel like I haven't seen Ali even try to hit a 0-5-4 in many months. Just about the time when he nearly ended Daniel Bryan's life by kneeing him right in the head on SmackDown Live. Now, if I'm right there, this means beyond any shadows of any doubt, the brand new lead Friday Night SmackDown announcer Michael Cole has not been watching SmackDown for a very long time. That's irresponsible. And next up, we have to make Ali's counter for an RKO in WTF moment because we haven't seen that before, I don't think. And if you have seen it before, keep it to yourself. One word for me, though, and that is wow. Ali is wise, like Mufasa is the thing I've got written down here, which was meant to be a play on words, but I know just some of you at home will comment, Ross, his name wasn't Mufasa, it was Mustafa, even though I know this, and that was a play on words, so I just won't bother. And the fact that I had to explain that just now means that was a bollocks joke to begin with. I'm panicking. Now, in the words of Natalya doing one of her signature poses, you guys. That's one way of getting people to watch this week's Raw, putting on a match that nobody wants to see for a 9th time. 9. You know the definition of insanity? Yeah. Finally, after so many years, the spotlights of the show are shining bright on the real stars of WWE, the Ghoul and his mom. Well done, lads. Made a great mistake, Corey. So now we have Corey mentioning all of the Japanese greats who have used the mysterious, poisonous mist out of their mouths in the past in the wrestling ring. He mentions the great Kabuki, he mentions the great Muta, but he doesn't bloody mention Tajiri. First of all, what does Corey have against Tajiri? And second of all, what has Tajiri been doing with Corey Graves and maybe even Mong Ai? And third of all, does this now mean we have to call Asuka the Great Asuka? Because if we do, I'm on board. Choo-choo. Yes, Michael Cole. That's exactly how The Rock does it with those hand movements and everything when he says the millions and millions. Corey's face says it all, doesn't it? Now, I don't want to encourage people to gift that moment there from Michael Cole and maybe put something on the bottom that he definitely didn't say, but that's... Has Luke Gallows' big super kick always been called the Shiz Kiz? The kick? Now, last week we saw an AEW referee do bugger all as a random man attacked a participant in a 6-man tag team match. And you can take your Omega wasn't a legal man, therefore it's fine bollocks, and shove it up your arseholes, because that's not how the wrestling works, okay? in my mind. But in WWE, we have the polar opposite as John Cone rings for the bell a couple of seconds, just seconds, after Gallows and Anderson start a 2-on-1 attack, and that's even though the normal, one man legal in the ring, 2-man not legal on the outside was abolished about 5 minutes before that. Everyone was everywhere. There was no rules. Why do WWE keep booking themselves into positions that they can only get out of through really infuriating booking from a fan's perspective? You have a million wrestlers, for Christ's sake. Use them where they're needed. Don't use wrestlers who you want to keep strong, and then because they can't take a pinfall, have bollocks DQs all the time. That just pisses us off. And not in a heat way, when a wrestler gets heat. The only person who gets heat is the company who booked the bollocks to begin with. Concussions are funny. CTE's a right hoot. But then something amazing happened, because as we all saw back at the start of the year, the Tamina train, it pulled out of the station, but the Tamina train inside the Elimination Chamber got derailed. But now here we are at the start of October, and woo-woo! The Tamina train's back on the tracks. She's going full steam ahead, boys and girls, a mere 3,422 days after a WWE debut, which is roughly 489 weeks, which is roughly 112 months, which is roughly 82,128 hours ago. Before that moment happened on Sunday, the girl, her dream finally comes true as Tamina wins a WWE title. And finally, the saying, nobody meaner than Tamina, still means bugger all. What happened to his scepter? Maybe he has got an STD, and that's what caused that thing to turn black and shrink, even though it was black beforehand. Just shrink then. But then I have to say that it's a right old hoot, us fans and people like The Rock and Becky Lynch calling big baldy bastard Baron Corbin an STD. Ha! But when calling big baldy bastard Baron Corbin an STD comes from the mouth of Michael Cole, it just doesn't work, because if big baldy bastard Baron Corbin is an STD, what the hell does that make Michael Cole, who was way worse than big baldy bastard Baron Corbin? I better not say, because it'll be bad. Now I know a lot of you would have been like, what? Oh hell no, huh? Hold up, when big baldy bastard Baron Corbin claimed that on last week's Friday Night SmackDown he put The Rock in his place. But if you look at the footage back once again, you can clearly see the big baldy bastard Baron Corbin is hitting a gnarly, jumping end of days on the Great One. For once, I agree with Michael Cole. How dare Greg Hamilton insult little bollocks after it as well. How dare the Ham insult Chad Gable by calling him Shorty Gable after he rolled up big baldy bastard Baron Corbin? Or do we now live in a WWE universe where a king of the ring actually gets to do more in WWE than just dress up like a giant bellend? WTF either way, I guess. Charlotte Flair likes Shawn Spears, therefore it's confirmed that Charlotte Flair will ask Shawn Spears for a job at AEW, and therefore Charlotte Flair is joining AEW confirmed. Hack theory here on Cultaholic. Now I can't have been the only one wondering here, why the hell didn't Carmella pin Tamina to win back her 24/7 title? But then Corey Graves came on commentary and answered all of our questions, because he said, finally, the Graves can get some sleep, which means, boys and girls, that since winning the 24/7 title the first time, all Carmella and Corey Graves have been doing in their spare time at home is shagging. It's the second time I've done that. Evidence that big baldy bastard Baron Corbin is a crap king. And I would know, because I was one too. No, that's not how it works, person with two signs for two different wrestlers. That's not how it works at all. You can only love one. It's like being one of those bellends who supports two football teams and you think you can get away with it just because one of those teams is in the Football League and the other is in the Premier League. You're an arsehole if you do that. I'm not calling that person an arsehole, but hands on an official. That means that's at least a $10,000 fine, because unlike Becky Lynch, who inadvertently striked an official at Clash of Champions, Bayley meant that one. So I'm waiting, Erwin. Ah, shyster. The biggest WTF moment of the night has to be the fact that Vic Joseph, Jerry the King Lawler, they spoke over the top of the Fiend's entrance. You can get that behaviour, that nonsense, and put it right in the bin, baby boys. That's a Bray Wyatt thing. Remember back in the 90s when, by God, that's gotta be Kane, happened, and then Kane had his debut match, I think it was, against Mankind at a subsequent pay-per-view, and the arena was bathed in red lights that looked like blood and fire and brimstone and hell. And nobody in that arena outside of the first few rows could see a pissing thing, much less the people at home who were looking at the television screens like that. Why would anybody think they were going to get different results by doing the same exact thing 22 years later? Honestly don't know. Now, as I said near the start of this video, I just can't tell if Dio Madden is a massive piss taker. Here's the evidence. During that Hell in a Cell match, he sat there on commentary and said things like, "We've seen what that mallet can do to Ramblin' Rabbit. What might it do to Ramblin' Rollins?" And then when Bray Wyatt hit Rollins, or sort of stabbed him with that massive comedy Timmy mallet in the corner of the cell, he said, or shouted, "Oh no, it almost impaled him." I don't know about you, but I was in stitches when he was doing all that routine. You're a good man, Dio. And then we get to the finish of that Cell match, and it serves WWE right for spunking their load early and putting the Fiend inside Hell in a Cell just because, ooh, Cell, ooh, red, ooh, mask, and ooh, Halloween, probably, and ooh, popular as well. Now, we all knew, us fans, us common people knew that before this match, the Fiend just couldn't lose, because it's too soon for that. And we also knew that Seth Rollins, he couldn't lose either, because it was way too soon after Seth Rollins, this normal man, had beat Brock Lesnar, big scary UFC Brock Lesnar, twice this calendar year. And I know that the Fiend perhaps beating Rollins after Rollins beat Lesnar twice would have made the Fiend the undeniable beast in WWE, but you just know that next month at Survivor Series, WWE, and Vince McMahon in particular, would have been looking already for someone to beat the beast. They cannot do things long term now. None of this was going to work from the start, so why was it booked? But the way the finish was done was bollocks, because it looked like the referee had disqualified Seth Rollins for using a little hammer after Bray Wyatt had used his big comedy hammer, even though Triple H had used a little hammer for 20 years before this. But since then, we've learned that the referee called off the match because he was scared that Rollins was legitimately going to murder the Fiend Bray Wyatt, and bollocks to that as well. First of all, the Fiend should never, ever, ever be in a position to be murdered this early on into his run. And second of all, this is Hell in a Pissin' Cell. We've seen attempted murder so many times over the past 22 years. What's one more? How's that gonna hurt? Why does this change now? Now, if this was merely a no disqualification title match, I would understand fully if the referee thought, hey, Bray Wyatt's safety is in danger, I'll call off the match. But this is Hell in a Cell, a stipulation that has set quite a precedent over the past 22 years. Back in my day, Hell in a Cell was the worst stipulation you could get in WWE. Two people, two men who hated each other, had been through every other stipulation possible, with the Cell the last resort to sort their feud out. And in that match, one of them would normally die, or come close at least. So of course, with the past 22 years of the stipulation behind this match on Sunday, we would have thought Rollins Wyatt, the referee lets it go until a winner wins by pinfall or submission or death. Isn't that just the very concept of this match? Maybe not now, but it was beforehand. Maybe, I don't know. So I guess that now that we've got to wait in this modern era until every October to have a Hell in a Cell match, we've got to get used to this now. Back in my day, as I said, the feud would necessitate the Cell, but now the Cell necessitates the feud. Oh, it's available to rent in October. We better book this. It's just bollocks, isn't it? But at the end of the day, in my mind, you cannot just change the severity of the Hell in a Cell match after the 22 years of history, which it has, and I guess they already might have changed it, considering this is the second year in a row a Hell in a Cell match hasn't ended with a conclusive death. What a shame. But again, all of this just comes back to WWE booking themselves into a corner and then getting themselves out of this corner with a result that just pisses off the fans. Just stop pissing us fans off, man. Since last Friday, we've had Kofi Kingston lose his title like he did. We had names like Austin and Undertaker advertised for SmackDown, and Cena as well, only not to be there. And now we've had this bollocks as well. It's a great job. There's not a second mainstream promotion in America for fans with, you know, massive distribution and all that, for them to think, oh, I'm sick of being pissed off by WWE and their crap booking and their lies. I'll go and watch them instead. Oh, there is. And as I said on the Cultaholic Wrestling podcast last week, I don't know about you, but if this wasn't my job, I would scrap watching the main roster, Because watching NXT, watching AEW, that looks like a winning combination where you're going to see a lot more good stuff that puts a smile on your face than stuff that you think, oh, I know how to do that better. It just pisses me off. Weird times we live in.
Bad booking, Seth. Bad booking. We want the fans.
Now I've seen this bloke and the t-shirt he's wearing, and let me tell that bloke, first of all, thanks for your support, but second of all, I'm not happy with your conduct, pal. Seth Rollins doesn't book WWE. The footage there seems to indicate that you're having a go at Seth Rollins for the finish of that Hell in a Cell match on Sunday. Seth Rollins did what Seth Rollins was told to do. Seth Rollins is not the problem. It's the bookers, it's Vince McMahon. Now we know the finish to that match did Seth Rollins no favours, nor has the way he's been booked in a very cheesy manner for the past year maybe, or his Twitter game over the past 6 months, but don't have a go at him for anything but his own Twitter game. And because of that, I hope we don't see Seth Rollins on Raw for at least a couple of weeks, or he will get the Roman Reigns treatment when Roman Reigns appeared the night after WrestleMania 33. But at the end of the day, fans, don't have a go at the wrestlers. It's not their fault. They're doing what they're being told. Have a go at the people who are telling them to do the things they're doing on the air. Be good, boys and girls. And then we finish with a baffling one. So the Fiend is just about dead. The referee calls off the match because he's scared that the Fiend may actually die. But then the Fiend comes back to life, mandible claw on Seth Rollins, blood spitting out of his mouth. A fantastic image to end the night. But just before the blood appeared, there was a few minutes of back and forth, so why wasn't the match restarted? You pissed everybody off, you saw, oh, he's back, he's fine, but you didn't give him the thing that's surely Foley, stretcher, that vibe. I'm just annoyed now. And that is it for the WTF Moments from Hell in a Cell 2019, a night that's, you know, they just pissed us off a bit more, and not in a good way that benefited the heels, just a bad way that didn't benefit anybody at all. And in relation to Hell in a Cell, get geared up and ready for the return of Hell in a Smell, with Adam Pacitti locked in a room for a long time with something smelly. If you want to see how that went down, watch the live reactions right at the end when Tom Campbell reads a letter that I put together. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. And if you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Cultaholic. Hit subscribe and join us.